What are you struggling with as a writer? Well, you're going to want to stick around because that's what we're going to be chatting about on our discussion on today's episode of Kauffman Writes, the daily creative writing show to give you inspiration, help you become a better writer, and maybe we'll procrastinate a little bit along the way. I'm Kauffman, and this is the daily show to help y'all write more efficiently. Today's show, we're going to be doing hopping into our first 20-minute writing sprint where I will be going over my last Scarecrow story. We'll then do the discussion with our second 20-minute writing sprint after that. Plain and simple today, my friends. All right, so I'm going to hop straight into it. I'm going to throw up the Atomic Elf playlist. Perfect. And we got that on the screen. Now, if you're joining me yesterday, you know my my heroes. Scarecrow's about to tell all the heroes the fight, the journey that they are with. I threw up the current situation on the right side if you want to catch up. Let me see. You want to make sure you can see that. That'll have to do. All right. So if it's been a long week for you, feel free to kick back, relax, and I'll write vicariously for the both of us, or get some development work done on your writing yourself, whether that's brainstorming, writing, or editing. All right, 20 minutes on the clock, and let's write. All right. Nice little writing sprint. I'm realizing that at this point in the story that I'm at, that he's kind of like recounting their journey so far. And I know that I could always just say like, okay, and the scarecrow told them all the things that happened and then move on. But I think what I'm doing is I'm using this as an opportunity for him to share the parts of the journey that he remembers, and I'm using the gaps in his memory as storytelling points. So it's going to be interesting. I'm kind of fleshing that out, and then I'll probably cut back on what makes sense, so it doesn't just feel like, oh, he's just rehashing everything that just happened. Awesome. So let's 10-minute break. I'll throw up that 10-minute timer. Excellent. So what we're going to do, I'm going to hop into, minimize that. And so something that I will do sometimes on my socials, I will post some creative writing questions. So the question of today is, as a writer, what are you trying to avoid? Let's just minimize that for now. And we'll do that. Perfect. So as a creative writer, what? Oh, that is not what I want. No. There we go. Perfect. So there's some really great questions on here. So I figured I would answer them, and hopefully some of these questions will bring you some value as well. So let's see. I'll have this one up here. Perfect. So this way you can see what the question is. No, that's not what I want. And let's go to all. Awesome. And if you're here in the chat, I would love to hear what are some common problems and writing things that you try to avoid as a writer. Feel free to drop it in the comments below. I'd be happy to give you some advice or talk through it. So let's see some of the more recent ones. Let's go into it. All right. So what are you trying to avoid? Head hopping, changes in point of view. That's interesting. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to change point of view, unless you're changing point of view like either mid sentence, mid section, mid chapter. If you're changing point of view too much, sometimes that can get kind of confusing, in all honesty. I generally try to keep point of views for from a chapter to chapter basis. Otherwise, your storytelling can get really confusing, especially in scenes like where I'm at with Last Scarecrow, where you have a lot of characters. It's important to keep them in mind. Who is the point of view character? Who are we seeing this world or this section of the story through? Because the way other characters act might be adjusted based on whose point of view it is. right? And this is especially important if you have like a lot of characters in your story. If you obviously have one or two characters, it's a little easier. But if you have like 5 to 10 characters, like you got to know who your main point of view character is. Yeah, I always think that's a good call out. Awesome. Let's see. What else are you trying to avoid? How to come up with interesting dialogue. Interesting. How to come up. What are you trying to avoid? Or I used to always struggle with finishing stories. Yeah. So if you're struggling with dialogue, a really good exercise, something I recommend, go to a coffee shop, go in public somewhere, listen to some dialogue. Listen to a piece of dialogue, listen to some conversations. Now, of course, if you take that conversation back with you, if you like pick one, obviously you don't want to take it word for word, but you want to get the overall gist of a conversation because it helps you hear how people are talking in real time. Obviously, as we go through life, we deal with real people and real conversations, but by being intentional with listening to a dialogue or to conversation, it gives us the opportunity to really fine tune and like, okay, is there a reason that this person said this? Is there a reason that this made them change their point of view? Yes or no? And it is actually a really great practice for subtext because most people, the average person, doesn't say what they mean. Rarely, because most people, especially in public, are on autopilot. So this is actually a great exercise if you're trying to practice subtext as well with dialogue. And subtext, very important. So I always say it's a good opportunity to learn tone, context, and subtext. Awesome. Let's see what I got here. Hey, what's up, Joelle? Welcome. I hate dialogue tags. They interrupt my conversation. Yeah, it's dialogue tags are interesting. I think with dialogue tags, you have to find a good balance. I myself hate overusing the he said, she said, right? So I always try to find other ways or other types of sayings that they can replace. And characters don't always have to have a dialogue tag. If it's obvious who's speaking, then no dialogue tag necessary. But if it's not obvious and dialogue tags aren't used effectively, then the reader is easily able to lose track of who the main character is that's speaking. So I find it really comes down to balance. Something that I like to do a lot with my own writing is I like to balance using the dialogue tag with the action. So that way even though a character's saying something, it kind of feels like they're saying something along with whatever action there is. So it minimizes the chance of the reader paying attention to the dialogue tag. Let's see. I did that one. All right, and let's see what we got next here. Let's see. I'm struggling with making sure there's enough action and it's not boring. Yeah, I mean, especially if you're working on a story and you're wanting your story to sound exciting, exhilarating, and not like somebody's about to fall asleep. Action is so important. Awesome. That's always a good one. Action can be a real doozy to deal with. I try to think in my sequences, like when yeah, you know what's interesting? I don't struggle with writing the action stuff. I struggle with the downtime stuff when I've like just written like this really cool action sequence, and then I've gone to the downtime sequence after that, and then I'm just like, oh, it's not as exciting. But then I have to keep in mind, I'm like, okay, the point of the scene that happens after this crazy action sequence isn't for there it's a different type of development, right? So then I have to get into like, okay, well, it's more focused on character development. Then I have to get myself excited for like, okay, well, now I need to get excited about like how this character is going to be growing as a result of this scene where they're basically sitting around a campfire doing nothing. Hey, what's up, Stephanie? Welcome to the chat, my friend. Yeah, so I feel like that was a good one. Action is a challenge. Let's see. Letting what my creative writing professor told me get to me. She practically destroyed my will to write, and I hate her for it. Oh, that's so sad. That is taking criticism. Taking criticism is a tough one, especially when we share our work with people that we hold in high regard or high esteem. If you're here in the chat, have you ever shared your work with somebody and received like either like a negative response or a response that you weren't hoping or anticipating? Gave a little pep talk and a little inspiration over here. I always hate it when writers get like really bad feedback from people, especially from a professor. Like that sucks. That sucks. I always try to. It took me a while because I did all my years of university for a creative writing degree, and it's let me tell you, it's really tough to grow a thicker skin when you're sharing your work with the world and you're sharing your work with others. It's it took me a little while to be able to separate my self-esteem from the way that I felt others would respond to my work, right? So, I finally got to a point where regardless of whether I love whether I love or I hate what I'm writing, like, I'm good with that. And if people are like, "You know what? This is amazing. This is terrible," whatever, I take all feedback as constructive feedback. And I think it's if you go into like a reading or you go into like a critique or you go into some type of review and the feedback is different than what you were anticipating, part of the challenge is that you've set up these unrealistic expectations within yourself. So then when you don't hear what you're expecting, like especially in like let's say like workshops, especially with school, then you're setting yourself up to be disappointed, right? So if your expectation is like, you know what, I enjoy my writing, but these people all might think it's terrible, or these people all might think it's great, and being prepared for either outcome will really help not just your self-esteem, it'll just help your brain. Like, just help your brain. And also like acknowledge what point of the process, like writing process it is. If you just put out like a rough draft, like most rough drafts suck. Like most rough drafts suck, and every writer's at a completely different stage of their writing progress, right? Always easier said than done. Don't compare. Let's see. Chat. Yes, all the time. Yes, LMA. LMA. Yes. I could totally get that, especially with art school. You probably deal with like so much criticism, whether that's like how people are responding to your stuff or seeing how other students respond or professors. It's the criticism and the feedback piece is very, very consistent with school, because like you need to get feedback to improve, right? And a lot of the times in like workshops and classes, workshops in school are designed around everybody check out the work, everybody give feedback for the grade. I think it's sometimes a little mixed because then people are giving feedback for the wrong reason, because they're giving feedback because they're thinking of a grade of themselves instead of thinking of like, oh, I want to get feedback because this story is good or this story sucks or whatever. Oh my God, I lost a friend because I let her read one of my stories. Oh, that's all. That sucks. But maybe they weren't the right friend for you in the first place, Joel. If somebody read your story and they chose not to become a friend as a result. Sometimes people have their own baggage and stuff going on, and we take it on ourselves when they do things that affect us, but a lot of times it's their issues and their drama and their stuff, and then we end up taking on too much, and it's like it could just be that like they are just not in a good place at this point in time to be what you need, or maybe they're just not the right person that you need in your life. Dude, yeah, yeah. Once again, I like to think that we attract people into our lives that we're meant to be. People we generally have people in our lives who like we want to have around, people who hopefully push us to be better. Hopefully. I've dealt with so many different types of like friendships and relationships, and I totally understand times in my life when I've had like really empowering friendships and really horrible friendships that did nothing for me. And at the time, I didn't see it because of how emotionally involved and invested I was. But it's the beautiful thing with life. It's all a learning experience. Yeah, that's like yeah, it's just that's so crazy. Let's see, Joe. I guess she did. Just the fact that I wrote something like that freaked her out. That is extreme. Yep, exactly, exactly. Joel, great, great advice from on your part, man. Yeah, you just gotta let people do themselves. Usually, especially with friendships, like when you get to know people over a longer period of time, like you'll get to see the type of person they are. And then if anything, it's actually a good thing that they're showing you who they are, because then you're not wasting more time in your life investing into a friendship that with somebody who's just not a good fit for you. Took me a long time to realize that. I wish I had I wish I had understood, come to that realization much earlier in my life. But life works out the way it does for a reason, and I'm grateful for what I have experienced. Excellent. Let's see, Stephanie. I've kind of experienced opposite anybody who's read my book so far has told me they love it. Well, that's good. That's awesome that you're getting good feedback. I was just kind of waiting for someone to tell me some kind of criticism because a part of me knew there was something wrong with it, but no one was telling me what was wrong. And Stephanie, you're dealing with the exact like opposite extreme of what it sounds like Joelle was dealing with, right? So like, and this can happen a lot when we have a network of friends, family, acquaintances who we give our work out to read. And the general feedback is like, oh, yeah, I love that. Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, this sounds really interesting. And a lot of time it's not as an intentional result to like not give you valuable feedback. It's generally because they probably either A, they don't know how to give you the type of feedback that you need, or B, they love you and they have a challenging, I'm not gonna say poor, but they just have a different relationship with giving constructive criticism and feeling like, oh, if I tell them something bad about their story or something negative, it's going to make them feel worse because I believe that their self-esteem is tied into their story. When the truth should be, if I give somebody feedback, it's because I care about the story and I want the story to be the best possible version it could be. And that's something that I really try to like incorporate and instill with like all my readings, critiques, feedback. And that just came from a lot of practice. In all honesty, it's really just reframing your mindset. But a lot of people don't have that mindset, especially friends and family. If they're not writers or they're not some type of artist, it makes it even more difficult. That's why I always recommend for writers to, when they're trying to get feedback on whether it's like excerpts or like stories, to find similar writers who are either writing similar types of stories or and are at um, levels that they're at, or joining writers workshops is a great, or not work writers groups is a great strategy as well, because a lot of times you can find writers who are in the similar place and they know what type of feedback they need. So they'll be a little bit more willing to give you the type of feedback that you need. And then I think by setting your expectations at the beginning, before somebody gives you feedback, like, all right, this is where my story is at. I feel like this could be the problem. Can you please give me, this is the type of feedback I want to hear. If you say it sucks for this reason, it's not going to hurt my feelings. I want my story to be published and people to love it. Right. So if I've set my expectations at the beginning, then I've set expectations with myself and I've set expectations with others. I'll pull this up because I actually did a really good article a while back. I think I posted it through Medium. Where'd I go? Critiquing the creative. So what you should do is go hop on over to Medium at some point, because I actually did a full article about this on giving and receiving critique. It's called Critiquing the Creative. You can find my handle, Kauffman JK. It's also on my website as well, but Medium's a little easier to get to. So check out this article. It's actually about giving and receiving feedback, and I give a really good strategy in it. But because we're like talking about feedback, I think this would really help you if you've ever like dealt with or dealing with getting feedback for your writing. So I always try to create, either I try to like balance between doing like stories and then writing articles for like things that'll like help writers, things that I've experienced a lot. So awesome. So that was a good that was a good little section there. I feel like we got through some good writing points. All right, so I'm happy with that. I feel like my timer probably. I was probably when it, yep, my timer was well over. So let's see, I'm going to add this back up. Perfect. I'm going to reset my timer and we're going to hop into another writing sprint. Writing sprint number 2. Also, I took chat's advice and gave my main cast personality quizzes. All of them. Yes. Yes. Oh my God. It doesn't sound like Atomic is here, but I think Atomic would absolutely love that. That's funny. I'm like, I think what I'm going to do, because I was actually thinking about the personality quizzes as well. I think I'm going to save it for after I do the rough draft. And then when I'm like, I know what I'm getting the sense I know who my main characters are, but I think I'm going to have run each of them through a personality test to better refine their personalities. And especially for my supporting characters, like I'm sure right now, and especially through the rough draft, I'm sure some of them sound the same. That's cool. Maybe it's a sign, Ome, that you have a lot of strong personality types. I want to make sure that sensor types. Interesting. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I was thinking of like the right personality type, right? Sensors. What is a sensor type personality? Someone who is sensing uses their 5 senses: sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing to interpret new information. They will use these senses to filter information, determine what is relevant. Sensors focus on the present. They are here and now people. They're factual and process information to the 5 senses. Interesting. So like realizing that, then I mean, you probably could do a story with a bunch of characters who are the same personality type, but I think you would have to like make that the actual thing. Like you would have to create the comedy, any like dramatic moments, comedic moments out of the fact that they're the same. Yeah, I think that would be the way that I would go about it if I was in your position. Alternatively, then it would seem like, all right, well, maybe it's time to throw in like a completely like aggressive character who like doesn't, or one who like doesn't think about anything and is very like headstrong and does their own thing and is like, screw the senses, I'm the badass or I'm the coolest or whatever. No, yours. It's the exact opposite. I'm thinking of mine characters. I'm like, do I have any sensors on in mine? Um, I think last Scarecrow is. I would say last Scarecrow is a little bit of a sense type. Last Scarecrow, Pebble kind of goes back and forth between a sensor type. Yeah, I'd have to think about it. Crow was not. Crow was definitely not a sensor type. Crow was a cuckoo crazy type before I offed him. Um, oh, R.I.P. Crow. Okay. Oh yeah, and by the way, before I hop into this next sprint, are you enjoying the stream? Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Live stream every day, new writing videos and shorts weekly to help give you inspiration and help you become a better writer. I will actually have my next I dropped another writing short this morning, which seems like it's doing pretty well so far, about what was that? It was developing underdog characters. So that was super cool. You can check it out through my YouTube. And then I'll be posting up a new writer's video on the writer's mindset. So that one will be up probably sometime soon after the stream. So that should be pretty cool. All right. So let's hop into writing sprint number 2. I got 20 minutes on the clock. I'm going to throw back up the music. Feel free to read along or write along, whatever floats your boat. Oh my god. All right, my friends, that was a really good writing stretch. I could tell that this conversation was getting heated. Like they recounted the events of the story in a very, I did it purposely in almost like a comical way to lighten the mood. But now they're kind of going back and forth and fighting like what is the nothingness and between the nothingness and the first demon. So you could tell there's kind of some very different mixes in terms of who believes what. And we're next going to resolve what happens next. This is the first, not the first, but this is the central point in the story where we're really determining what has to happen for this next half of the journey. So join me tomorrow and I will continue on. It will be a shorter writing sprint because Saturday is our writing show. Awesome. And so before I hop into my the advertisement for tomorrow's writing show, I wanted to do a really quick plug. So I recently threw up a post on my YouTube channel. Y'all should check it out. Let me throw up here. What do you want to see? So I just threw up a post under my YouTube channel. Go under the community tab under the posts. As I'm working on more like videos and live streams and short videos, I put up a little what are they called? A little poll in terms of like the types of videos that I'm working on and the types of videos that I could possibly do. So go vote. Let me know what types of videos do you want to see? Are you wanting to see more like general writing techniques? Do you want to see more tips on general fantasy, sci-fi, like genre type stuff? Do you want to learn more about writing tools? Or are you just looking for some writing inspiration? So go vote. Let me know what you've found value in and what you want to see more of. It's under the community tab on my YouTube channel at Kauffman's Corner. So go check it out and vote as I'm determining my my video strategy for the coming month. All right, so I wanted to plug that. And then starting straight off with tomorrow. So if you've joined us on any past Saturday shows, do you want your story read and critiqued? Every Saturday, we do live readings, live critiques right here every single Saturday. The show is fun. The streams are super cool. We had a lot of excerpts last week. Last Saturday is probably one of the most popular shows so far. And I imagine we'll have a lot of excerpts for tomorrow. I know if you submitted an excerpt from last week, I'll probably be reaching out to you sometime tomorrow morning with letting you know if your submission is in the queue. But if you want your story read live and critiqued, send it to thecreativeghostwriter@gmail.com. So send that. Tomorrow's stream is at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can come watch it live, or you can always come check it out on the replay. So I'm going to throw up the editing video, which will kind of explain it a little bit, and I'll give you an idea of what the show looks like tomorrow if you haven't checked it out previously. All right, here we go. Editor, I actually do free critiques and readings for your story every single Saturday on my live stream. My name is sacred. I am Butternut. You want to minimize the chance of a reader being pulled out of the story and being like, wait, what's going on? Forget dropping to the drop zone. I'm dropping you guys now, but drop or die. I would go harder in on the language that you use when describing the technology, the mech, the air units. In a maze of unending grid-laid streets with no avenue of exit in sight, when I wake up from dreaming, sometimes I wake up silently screaming. Add or adjust some of the language so it matches Boschian landscape, mirror world, shadowland. Or if you're looking to hire an editor for your next book because you're ready to take it to the next level, I do full editing services where I'll focus on character. The man froze for a moment, then nodded. Wolf, me, Wolf. I want to know more about each of the characters. Wolf makes me suspect that he's either father, pirate, the evil antagonist, like the capricious nature of life's tapestry. You want to highlight and elevate that relationship between the two of you, that meeting moment. World building, I want more of this. Rhyming tone is music to the ears. I saw you're dead inside. That something happened I never knew about. And all those lies, loneliness, and us having to cope with it, relate to it, understand it, or fight against it is a very powerful message. Dialogue. He was surprised that this woman, of all people, was giving him a pep talk, because sometimes when we have characters who speak too much, it's easy for someone to tune out if they're reading it. And this is a really interesting world, and I don't want people to tune out on your work. And structure. Ben jumped up a little disoriented and grabbed his gun. Running to the stairs, he heard men yelling, "Who else is down there?" During this shootout, I would just add a little more detail, make this a little longer, because this shootout is fun. This is like the action sequence of like, kill the bad guy, pow pow. So that way your book will be all ready to be published. And let's take it to market. All right. And there's the editing ad. So once again, here's the email, thecreativeghostwriter@gmail.com, if you want to know more. And that is our stream for tomorrow. But before you go, don't forget, tap the like button. Tap the like button on the way out. Let me know that you enjoyed this stream and that you got some value, whether it's from the writing sprints or the conversation in between. That's all that I got for you today, writing friends. I'm Kauffman, and remember, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'll catch you on tomorrow, my